welcome back to a new year of this. I know it's kind of late and probably nobody cares at this point, but I still really want to talk about my favorite books of 2019 because I want to have that video. I want to have that video to look back on. I'm gonna do, I think, a top 8, just because there's 8 books that I really feel the need to talk about. How to Create a Vegan World by Tobias Lehnaert. I've talked about this a little bit because it was in my reading rush list. Not all of the books are gonna be like this style. Like, this is obviously not fiction. It kind of reads like a school textbook almost. I just thought this was so well written. It's basically what the title says. It's kind of like almost like a thesis on like how he feels is the best way to create a vegan world. What I loved about this is how open-minded it was compared to a lot of other vegan media. You know how a lot of vegan media can be quite judgy. It basically says if we want to create a vegan world in the future, we need to stop judging other people and excluding them just because they're not perfect vegans. It talks about cheering people on rather than condemning them. I don't know, I just really like the way this was formulated. All in all, quite like a hopeful book as well. It's really well written, and I think that if you are interested in going vegetarian or vegan, like anywhere on the spectrum, I think it's worth a read. The next book I want to talk about, I think I haven't talked about yet, and honestly, that's not okay. It's Fall Down 7 Times, Get Up 8 by Naoki Higashida. A young man's voice from the silence of autism. Naoki Higashida is a Japanese guy. He is autistic and he has written 2 books. This is his second book. I really want to read his other book as well, but this is basically just his feelings, his thoughts about how he lives with autism, how he deals with it, how his relationship with his family has evolved because of it, how he's learned to become confident, and how he continues to try to grow as a person, and how he continues to try hard to do more every single day. I think everyone should read this book. I think it teaches a lot about empathy. A lot of people just don't really know much about autism. You know, if you don't have someone with autism in your friend group or your family, there's just not that much knowledge, I think, in general. Like, we don't learn about it enough. Learning about it through the perspective of this guy who's lived with it all his life and who is so well spoken, even though he's not 100% verbal because of his autism. There's poetry of his in here that made me sob. There's beautiful stories from his childhood. Because of his autism, he faces so many challenges every single day, and he overcomes them and perseveres and grows, and it is such an example. He sets a really good example for how people should be living their lives. And I think if you want a book that will tug at your heartstrings but also motivate you a whole heck of a lot to be a better person and to work hard and to not let little things get you down, and also to just learn about autism, because I just feel like we all should be a little more in the know. Highly recommend this book. Then we get into fantasy, which is probably my favorite thing to read. This book has been praised by so many people on YouTube that I don't even think I need to really explain it. But it's Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. Muse of Nightmares is the sequel in the duology Strange the Dreamer. It is definitely fantasy. It's got gods and magic and dreaminess, a little bit of romance, but also friendship, action. Plot-wise, I don't really want to say much because, first of all, I think everyone's read this by now, and second of all, it's better to just go into it not knowing much. I like the second book a lot more than the first one. The first one I thought was good, but I didn't get why everyone was raving about it so much. But then after finishing this one, I'm like, yeah, okay, it's really good. It's really good. I'm a very big fan of the writing. It's very poetic and descriptive, which is the kind of stuff that I really like. I really liked a lot of the character dynamics in this. Like, I really loved learning about Azarine and Errol Fane's relationship. My favorite character was probably, God, what's his name? The one with the blonde one? Theon? I think his name was Theon. It's been a while since I've read this. I really like Theon. He's probably my favorite character. I love his whole arc. The only reason why I wasn't 100% obsessed with this is because the 2 main characters wasn't like a big fan of them, and like their romance I was just kind of meh about. But then again, I am that kind of a person. I'm really hard with romance. I like 90% of the time I hate it, so that might just be a me thing. Sarai and Laszlo, I was just kind of like, I don't know. I was a lot more interested in like everyone else's relationship and like everything else that was going on. And the good thing is that there was a lot of other stuff going on. Like this world feels so real and vast and vivid. Another thing I really loved about this series is that it was so different from anything else I've ever read. Like it wasn't your typical fantasy story. Like it was really refreshing. Like the world felt very refreshing, but also just the story and the ways it was going. It was just like stuff I've never read before. Yeah, Muse of Nightmares. Next up is my only YA contemporary on the list, and that is The Truth About Keeping Secrets by Savannah Brown. I've talked about this in my reading wrap-up, so I'm not gonna talk too much about this. I think this is an incredible book. It is about a girl who loses her father, and it's about the grief that she deals with, but also she starts to think that there was foul play involved with his death. She thinks maybe her dad was murdered, so it's a little bit of a murder mystery, but it's mostly coming of age story about this girl who's dealing with a lot of grief. There's LGBT representation in this, which is wonderful. What I loved about this was, well, the writing, holy crap. Savannah Brown just made me feel like I can never write as good as her. And she's so good. Savannah Brown is also a poet, and you can tell like the writing's very poetic. There are so many quotable moments in this. It is a very sad book. I loved how real everything felt. The characters were so real. That made everything that more heartbreaking, because this is a very sad book. It's also quite a brutal book. Like this book messed me up a little bit, so it's not for the faint of heart. It talks about death a lot. Like a lot. Be wary of that. But aside from that, I think it's one of the most beautiful books I've ever read. It's so beautiful. I will say though, and that's why it's not higher up on my list, that the ending, I kind of wished for a little bit more from the ending. That's my only negative thing I have to say about this. Other than that, this is a perfect book. Then we're gonna go into a classic, The Call of the Wild by Jack London. It's about a dog called Buck who is a pet dog, but he gets stolen away and starts to work as a sledding dog, and then slowly he kind of goes from being a pet dog to becoming this wild animal. So good. I love the descriptions of the beautiful scenery, because obviously it's like beautiful winter landscapes, and like it's just, oh, it's so nice. I loved how everything was written from the perspective of dogs. Like the humans were just sort of like side characters. It was more about the dogs, and like all the dogs had different personalities, and it was just so nice. I think if you're a dog lover, you're gonna love this book. Although it's also not for the faint of heart, because there's a lot of like, I mean, it's wild nature. It's like, you know, stuff goes down. Wild animals kill each other, stuff like that, you know? And there's a lot of like graphic descriptions of that kind of stuff. You know, if you're not into that, then maybe don't read this. But yeah, the themes of going back to your roots and finding that wildness inside you, hearing the call and having to answer that was beautiful. I love the theme of survival in the wild, how nature is not something that can just be tamed, how sometimes humans are no match for the power of nature. Now we get into my top 3. At number 3, I've got The Knife of Never Letting Go. I have done a whole book talk about this, so I have to keep this brief. This book destroyed me. It completely destroyed me. I cried so much. If you watch my book talk video, you'll see me cry a lot. Oh man, this is a, what is this? Science fiction novel. It's a series. This is the first one. It's about a little boy called Todd. He lives in Prentisstown, where everyone can hear everyone's thoughts. Also, there's only men living there, so there's just noise everywhere. And then one day he hears silence. Stuff happens, and suddenly he has to leave, and he goes on this journey. And this probably makes no sense. The first like 50 pages or 100 pages even, I had no idea what was going on, and I was just confused. But then like it unfolds, and Man, this book, I don't even know how to talk about this book. You should just watch my book talk video. I can't. It's just so good. Again, the writing in this was incredible. Also, it's written from the perspective of a little boy, which is something that I really tend to like. I don't know why. I just like books that are written from the perspective of children. It was really beautiful to watch him kind of grow up in a way and learn about the world. It's about a boy who is forced to grow up too fast, honestly. That's what I feel like. It's a lot of pain and suffering, but I recommend it, you know? Man, the knife of never... you know? Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about this book still. I as you can see, I don't know how to talk about it, even now. If you want to know more about this book, and I highly recommend you check out this book. If you want to know more, just I'll leave my my book talk in the description where I explain the book a little bit better because this is yeah. So that was only my number 3 and I'm emotional. So at number 2 we have this freaking book, man. I'm gonna be emotional for the rest of this whole video, I'm just saying. Yeah, I thought this was going to be my number 1, but nope. My number 1 is a book that I haven't talked about on this channel yet, so brace yourselves. This one I have talked about. I have done a book talk video for this one, so I'll also link that below. Thunderhead is the second book in a trilogy called Scythe. It is a dystopian series about a world in which humans have conquered death. People just don't die anymore. Our technology is just that good. Scythes, they are people who are elected to glean people, aka kill people, just to keep the population down. That's kind of the system that works in this world, and it's about the journey of 2 teenagers who are chosen to become Scythes. Their job will be to kill people. This whole series as a concept is so fascinating to me. I love the world. Again, this is the second book in the trilogy. I liked the second book a lot more than the first one. I think I gave the first one like 3 stars or maybe 4 stars. I don't know. I had some questions and issues with the first one, but then I read this one and now it's like my favorite series of all time. And I haven't even finished the series yet. I haven't read the last one. I'm so excited about it. This book, man, like if you've read Scythe and you didn't like it that much, please read Thunderhead. There's just so much more depth in this one, and I feel like we get to know the world so much better in this one. I also liked the characters a lot better. I don't know why this time around I felt so much more connected to everything. My favorite character is Tulliver, who is a new character that comes up in this book. Man, I have a lot of emotions. This is a very fast-paced series. It's very like, it just like jerks you around emotionally because like stuff happens all the time that you don't expect to happen. That's the type of series this is. I want everyone to read this. I want more people to talk about it. I feel like not enough people talk about this, and it like frustrates me because I need to talk about it. I have so many emotions. The last 50 or 70 or so pages of this, I was bawling my eyes out. Like, there's this moment when like suddenly everything clicks together and like I'm gonna start crying. Oh my god. Highly philosophical as well. Like this stuff makes me think about the world and humanity so much. I don't think a book series has ever made me think this much, and I freaking love it, and I need to read the third book. Okay, rant over. If you want to hear me talk more about this, I'll leave my book talk in the description down below. Okay, are you ready for my favorite book of 2019? Oh, it is a YA contemporary, actually. I did not think that this was gonna be such a big deal for me. Of course, I'd heard about this book because it has been talked about on BookTube, but I always had my reservations about it, and I was like, I don't know if this is for me. But then got it one day, and I was like, you know what? I need like a short little cute book. Yeah, like a short little cute book. That's what I thought I was getting into. And then I read it, and I'm just not okay. I mean, okay, we're talking about this book. Can you see it? Hello. They both die at the end. I know, I should have known from the title that this was gonna break me. For some reason, I thought I was getting into like a cute book. It was gonna be nice and cute and short and fun. I look like such a fool. I know, the title is, man. I read this book I think about a month or two ago now, and I legit think about this book every single day. There's not been a day when I don't think about this book and about these characters and about their beautiful relationship. Gonna cry. If you don't know, They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera is a YA contemporary about a world in which the day before you die, at midnight, you receive a call saying that you're gonna die the next day. It's just kind of like how the world works. It's about these two different boys who both get the call. They're both very different people. They don't know each other, but there's this app that allows people who get the call to connect and to kind of find a last friend that they can spend their last hours with. And these two guys get together to spend their last hours together, and it just talks about their last day together. I really did not think I was gonna just be destroyed this much. I cried so much during this book. Like, I think I was crying within like the first 20 pages, and then like every few other pages I would start crying. It's just so brutal. What would you do if you get the call and you know that sometime tomorrow you're gonna die? Like, what would you do? You don't want to be with your friends because you don't want your friends to watch you die. You don't want to be with your family. You don't want your family to watch you die. It's just so brutal. I really loved our two main characters. Both of them, I am so in love with, and I care about them so much. Like, they are my actual children. You have no idea how much I love these boys. Like, I would die for them, which with like YA contemporaries, I rarely have that. Can I just say I have a huge crush on this one guy? Freaking Rufus. I love this man. The reason I thought I wasn't gonna like this so much was because I thought it might be too fluffy for me. I'm not really that much into like fluffy cutesy stuff, but it was so much more than that. And even the fluffy stuff, I was like, my heart was melting, and who am I? I don't do that. I'm not like that. But I was just so in love with these characters. Even though everything takes place in one day, their relationship never feels forced. And I thought that was going to be the case. I was really worried that I was just not going to be able to get into it just because, you know, how are these two guys supposed to form a close connection, a close bond within like the last 24 hours of their lives? But like the way it's developed is so natural. The way they have to come to terms with, you know, the reality that they're going to die within the next 24 hours. It was just written so beautifully. I don't know, I was so apprehensive about this book because I was like, how, with a premise like that, how do you fulfill that? How do you make that work as a novel? Without it being cringy or without it feeling rushed, or I don't know, how do you do that right? I couldn't see how an author could do that concept right. But like, Adam Silvera did it right, like 100%. I wouldn't change a single thing about this book. It's so freaking good. And then the whole time I was just thinking, like, what would I do in this situation? What would I do if I had the call and I knew that I was gonna die the next day? Like, what the hell? It was just a very heavy book in that sense. You get the perspective of these two boys, but you also get the perspective of a lot of the people around them and other people in the city who might also get the call and how they deal with it. It forces you to think about yourself and what you would do in a situation like that. And you know, it's heavy stuff, man. But also, like, when I think of this book, I just get all warm and fuzzy inside, and I just read this book, okay? Like, even if you're not into YA contemporary, just like read this book, okay? So, hey, stop it. Read this book. Please. I need to stop talking. I've been talking about this book for like 10 minutes. Yeah, those are my top 8 books of this year. I hope you enjoyed. If anyone's watching, I guess I'll see you in the next video. I have no idea what the next video will be, but you know, see ya.